Hi, my name is RayShon, and this is Morgan, and we're the Roberts. We've been married 6 years, and we have two amazing kids, and we're here to talk about interracial marriage.
So what would be our advice to other interracial couples who are either dating or are married, and how to make the relationship work? And when we were, talking about this question, I think the biggest thing that has helped us in our marriage over the last 6 years is understanding culture, understanding that there are differences in culture. And if you're considering marrying somebody of the other race, is to understand what you're getting into before you actually marry the person. And, the first thing that we thought of in regard to this is taking the time to stop, listen, and ask questions. So I know for, RayShon's African American, and when we first started dating, I didn't really think twice about it, but I had to stop when we got married, and I was like, wait, what does that mean? What does it mean to be African American? What do they appreciate in their culture? What's important? And if I wouldn't have stopped and considered that, I would have expected him to kind of walk into what my dominant culture was, what I grew up with as normal, and what my family values, what my family did for vacations, right? Like all of those things are different, and culture definitely played a role in those differences.
Yeah, and I would say understanding that you're marrying into the family. So for me, that was not just marrying Morgan, but understanding I'm marrying her family, their culture, their values, all of that stuff she's bringing in to this family that we're building.
Yeah.
And that was a huge point for me just to consider, right? And knowing what I'm getting into before she walks down the aisle, and understanding that, okay, we are bringing two worlds together, and they're going to be different, and that's actually a beautiful thing. But I had to set my mind to that before taking that big step. But also understanding that even as we had kids and building a family, there are different ways that we were raised, different values. We experienced discipline in the house differently, and there's so much to unpack in that conversation. But all of that is key. So definitely having that communication about those topics, talking about family of origin, and even being able to personally identify the things that are important to you and those things that you want to bring into your marriage.
And another thing is to appreciate and accept differences. I think in our culture, when we think about differences, it's if you are different than me, that's negative, or I am better than. And to be able to walk into a marriage and understand that differences actually are a beautiful thing, and they're more enriching to, I've only been exposed to my culture. I really haven't walked in his shoes, in his culture. And so being able to say, okay, they're different, and not to have an automatic response of different is bad, but really the line of communication has to be open of, wow, you do that a little bit differently than me. Why do you do it that way? And did your family do it that way? Or did you guys, I don't know, was that a family thing, or is that just a personal thing, or is it a cultural thing? And so being able to have those, the safe place to ask questions too. I think knowing that you're marrying into a different culture, being able to say, wow, we're going to ask questions that might be hard. They might trigger some emotions, but let's have a safe place to ask those questions rather than just live in his culture, live in my culture, and have them be two separate things. Because as he said, our children were walking into kind of this tornado of two cultures, and how are we going to help guide them in what we want the culture in our home to be?
Well said.
So our experience as an interracial couple, I think for me has been a really interesting journey. So I think when we first got married, I did not necessarily appreciate RayShon's culture or his family's culture. And one experience that really has stuck out to me, and I hold very close to me to this day, is Thanksgiving in his family is a huge deal. And, when we got married, I was welcomed into the kitchen by my mother-in-law and my grandmother-in-law. I call them my mother, so by my moms. And, I was in there and we were making the food for Thanksgiving, and it's a lot of hard work. I mean, we start the night before and then we cook all day for Thanksgiving. And when we were talking, the first couple of years, I was like, wow, this is a lot of work. And then it was around the second or third year that I was asking my mom some questions in the kitchen, and she turned to me and she was like, this is actually how soul food is made. And why it's so important to our cultures, because this is, in the kitchen when we're talking and we're listening to music and we're making this food, this is where stories of our family are passed down. This is where the culture is passed down from mother to daughter. And then you'll do it with your daughter and you'll pass it down to her in the kitchen. And I get kind of choked up even thinking about it now, because it is so special. And that's something that, I had moments with my mom growing up where we would cook, but it was never deep rooted in the culture itself. And I knew soul food and I knew, the name of it, but I really didn't understand why it was so important. And so now when I go to cook for my family in the kitchen, or when we go over to their house, every week, I carry such a different richness of culture with me, and really the importance that I carry as the mom in the family, and just learning and asking questions, because I want to pass those recipes down to my kids. I want to pass the stories. I want to be able to say that I, really took the time to be able to learn and understand the culture, and not just be frustrated, like, why do I have to be in the kitchen all Thanksgiving, or, this is so much work, but really being able to understand and appreciate that side of the culture.
Yeah, that's great. And she's a really great cook now. Since we got married. No, I'm just kidding.
Learn from the best.
No, but she's always had it. And anyway, my experience, one of the things that stood out to me just throughout the 6 years of our marriage, and then just even dating, was I think I came in a little defensive and thinking her white family is not going to understand me, and who knows if they'll accept me, who knows if someone's racist or not. And I didn't know what to expect. All I knew is that I loved her. And her parents have been amazing. They have been the most loving, just embracing, and even understanding. But it's also provided this huge opportunity for me to bring something new to their family.
Right.
And that's something I had to learn to be confident in, as well as taking those opportunities, to educate. Here's like sharing my experience as a Black man in America. What are the things that I face, that I think about, that I fear, that they have never experienced, maybe never knew or never heard. So it's fostered a lot of great conversation with family, and then even it goes both ways, right? Like, as much as I'm bringing something, she's bringing something to the table, and overall it is one of the most rewarding, enriching experiences to be able to marry someone outside of our race, and to come together to build something new. Right. And to learn what's important to her, what we value, and even just to share a few small things. So in my family, we love to spend time together. We value quality time, and we can be together all day. We may not be concerned about a schedule or being on time to things, or getting to the next thing. We just love to be together. We love to eat. There's so much in there. Whereas I learned, like, that in her family, things are done on time. Dinner happens at the same time every night. Or if we're getting together, it's, well, what's the plan for the day? And so I could have came in like, man, like, you guys are so uppity, uptight, this and that. But there are things that are important to them that they value, that have worked. And then I came in going, oh, well, let me learn from you guys. And so I have learned so much, and I think it goes both ways. But it has been an awesome experience. And then to bring children into it has escalated it a ton as far as, well, what are we building here, and how much of Black culture is going to be in our house, and how much, of white culture, and what do we want our kids to know and understand and value and this and that. So it has been a process, a journey, identifying those things, deciding on what, and what kind of books do we have, what kind of dolls do we have, what movies are we going to show, and I mean, there's so much that goes into it, but these are all the things that you would have to consider, and then
and they get the best of both worlds is kind of the conclusion that we've drawn. But the last thing that has really affected our experience is definitely the most recent times with all of the racial injustice going on. And I think if you are in a white and Black relationship, I would definitely encourage the white person in the relationship to really do your homework and learn and educate yourself. For me, starting about 9 months ago, which I know people are like, well, you've been married for 6 years, like you're just starting to educate yourself now. But for me, I really have intensely and intentionally started to read books, listen to podcasts, watch documentaries that will teach me what the Black experience in America has been, since I can't walk in those shoes myself. And the reason I did that is because, one, I feel like I owe it to my Black husband to try to understand what his experience is, but two, my children are going to walk those footsteps. And if I am so disengaged from what their experience could be or will be, I feel like I'm not doing and not advocating for my children the way that I should be. And so I've spent the last 10 months or so really trying to focus my attention on that. And let me tell you, I mean, I feel like a whole new world has been opened to me, and a really disappointing and disheartening perspective, but also I feel a fire within me to learn so that I can have those conversations, so that when my daughter or my son comes to me and says, Mommy, somebody said this to me at school, I can actually say, wow, like, I'm really sorry to hear that somebody said that. Let me tell you about some amazing Black leaders who have gone before you, who have had to overcome obstacles, or who have been so influential, have been inventors, have been, leaders, whoever it might be, so that all of their examples that Mommy gives them as a white person is not that they're not all white, that I can actually share with them, amazing and inspiring Black stories to show them that I care about both of our cultures. And I think that is kind of where we've landed, is if we can both understand the other person's culture, then we will raise our children, we will share our story, we will impact other people from a mutual connection and appreciation for each other's cultures, rather than he'll tell his culture and I'll tell my culture. But the more we can be unified, the more we can really stand, I think, for who we want to be, and really raise our family in the culture that we are inspired to do. So
yeah, and speaking on unity, everything that she just said, this whole part of our journey has brought us even closer.
Yeah.
So I can't even express fully how much more understood I feel after she has gone out of her way to educate herself. And I think we're a Black and white couple, but this applies to any couple, any interracial couple, where you learn about that culture. You have to step out of your comfort zone and engage and learn and educate and understand and listen. And in doing that, it speaks volumes. I mean, I fell more in love with her as she has taken this part of her journey, and it's only brought us closer. And it's been awesome. So